I just got done watching the 2010 remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. And I have to say, this is probably one of the worst horror remakes I've seen in a while. I mean, I was unimpressed with the whole movie. It was just bad on so many levels. It was a disaster. Period. Bottom line, it was a disaster. I hated the movie. I absolutely hated it. It was just ugh. And once again, Platinum Dunes showed us that they do what they do best: make shitty remakes of classic horror films. I don't even know where to start because I'm just utterly pissed off at this movie. Terrible, terrible movie. I'll just start with Platinum Dunes, period. I mean, if you didn't like any of the previous Platinum Dunes movies, you're not gonna like this. This is just as bad as Friday the 13th and the other remakes they did, or I forgot some of them this moment. But what I think I hate about Platinum Dunes remakes is the stupid MTV filming style, like the green blue tintish, like raw looking filming MTV like type. I hate that. All the movies have it. It's like this greenish bluish like look to the film. I hate it. It's so annoying. They do it every fucking movie. It's so annoying. And the other thing I want to talk about is well, first I'll just talk about the cast. I could have chose better people for this movie. A 5-year-old could have chose better people for this movie. I mean, total bad casting. I want to know who the hell the casting director for this movie was, because you mean to tell me that these people auditioned and they thought they were good? Well, the way I see it, it looks like they come in, they're like, can you scream? Okay, you can scream. You have nice tits? Okay, you got the part. It seems like that's what they did, because you can't tell me these people auditioned and they thought they were good, because they were not good. All the teenagers and the parents in the film were boring. The teenagers, all of them were boring. Kitty Cassidy, she was not good. I thought she was boring. Thomas Dekker was boring. I didn't like his acting either. Keanu Lutz, they only took him in the role because the stupid Twilight movie that recently came out. And this guy can't act for none of the money in my pocket. He can't act. I mean, there's a scene, he's like blood in his hands. He's like, oh, there's blood in my hands, so I'll just wipe it off. It's not a big deal. I mean, if you see a bunch of blood in your hand, you wouldn't just sit there and wipe it off. You would probably be freaking out. But he just does it like, oh, okay, I'll just wipe it off. Not a big deal. Like, great acting there. And he looked way too old to play a teenager. He looked like he was 33. And same thing with Kitty Cassidy. He looked too old to play a teenager. And if I see this girl in one more remake, I'm gonna pull my ears off my head. I mean, first she was in the Black Christmas remake. No, first is when a Stranger Calls remake. Then she was one of the lead in the Black Christmas remake. And then this, I mean, like, what's next? She's gonna play Annie's mom in the Child's Play remake. And yes, they are gonna remake Child's Play. And I have my second thoughts on that film. But back to this. Yeah, and Kyle Gallner, which most people said, some said he was pretty good, but I didn't like him at all. I thought he was annoying, and boring, and that look on his face. He looks like he's about to burst out crying or something. Like, he has that type of look on his face. I don't know. I didn't like him, and the parents of the teenagers were all single parents in this film, and we didn't see them long enough. They weren't interesting. We barely got to see them, and the only one that was wasted was Clancy Brown. I thought it looked like he had potential, but they just wasted him. He was only in like a few scenes, and I'm sure you all remember him from Pet Sematary 2 as Gus the cop who came out from the dead, whatever. And as Mr. Krabs' voice on SpongeBob. But I thought he was wasted. But everyone else was forgettable, lifeless, boring. I saved the best for last. Rooney Mara as Nancy. This girl has got to be one of the most boringest, blandest, uninteresting, dull, no charisma, no personality, no emotion, unconvincing actresses I've ever seen in my life. This girl was just boring. She can't act, and I already knew that from the trailers. I could tell she did not look like a good actress. And I was right. She was terrible. She was terrible. Bad casting. Bad miscasting. I mean, I was terribly disappointed with the choice of Nancy when I found out it was her, because I was having iffy thoughts on her, and she turned out to be awful. Awful. She had no emotion. She was not convincing. She mumbled on her lines, basically, and she was just total miscast. And the Nancy in this remake is so uninteresting. She's all like emo and I'm the loneliest girl in the world, and all she does is listen to her iPod and draw paintings and stuff. That's all she does. And this girl, she's so wimpy. I mean, Heather Langenkamp in the original, she wasn't the best actress in the world, but I mean, at least she brought something to the character. This girl is a wimp. Every time Freddy came near her, she didn't do anything. She would just stand there. I'm like, do something, dummy. At least in the original Nancy, she even wrestled Freddy in one of the scenes. Like, she jumped on him and started wrestling him in that rose bush thingy crate thing. I don't know what it was, but I mean, at least she did something. This girl just stood there like an idiot. And what's with casting all the pretty-faced teenagers? I mean, it's so annoying. Just cast average-looking people. I mean, do you see these people in your high school looking like this? I don't. Do you see girls at your school looking like Katie Cassidy? I don't. I mean, I don't know. But, on to the next thing. Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger. I know a lot of people were bashing this and complaining and stuff. And yes, I was one of the complainers, but in all seriousness, I just didn't like Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger. I'm sorry, but I mean, I know he did what he could with the script and stuff, but he just I don't know, he just didn't have that boogeyman type to him or something. I'm not trying to bash on him, but I'm just saying I just found him to be boring. But I guess it's not his fault, it's the script's fault, because he was boring. Freddy Krueger in this movie was boring, not scary, unmenacing, and he talked too damn much. I mean, after a while, I was just like, shut the fuck up! God! He talked too much. Not enough scary, just too much talking. And, I mean... and... I don't know. I just didn't... He just didn't cut it for me. He did the best he could, but he just didn't cut it for me. It just wasn't the same without Robert Englund. Next thing is the pacing and editing and directing. Directing was poor. Same thing as the editing. Some of the scenes in the trailer you don't even see it in the film, like Chris with the glove and then Chris in the underground layer with all the candles and stuff. You don't see that in the film. And I can't stand when movies do that. Same thing with Black Christmas Remake. Some of the stuff in the trailer you didn't even see in the movie. Well, half the stuff in the trailer you didn't see in the movie. And I just found that irritating. And you could tell it cut out some parts because, I don't know, the film was just a little choppy in editing department. The pacing was terrible. Like, the first half of the movie went by too fast. And then, towards, an hour into the movie, it just started slowing down. The pacing was just, sluggish. The pacing was uneven, and I don't know. The beginning felt rushed, and towards the middle started feeling more like worm-like. So bad pacing, bad editing, and directing was not good either. So I don't know. Everything about this film was just bad. But the next thing I want to talk about is the overall tone of the movie. It's just, a lot of people say this movie is more darker than the original, and more, it's darker and more serious. But I didn't find the movie to be that dark or serious. I mean, the movie was taking itself serious. I think it took itself a little way too seriously. But stay tuned for part 2 because I have more to say.